Welcome back to 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1, brought to you by Larry King Law. If you're injured in an accident, you call 757-INJURED for Larry King. With the coach, Ed Young, I am Matthew Hatfield on this state championship basketball Saturday in February, a rare one. It's usually in March, but here on the 20th day of February, we're doing some NFHS network broadcasting tonight. We did some on Wednesday night, Coach, with Green Run defeating LC Bird in the Class 5 state semifinals. And we'll actually start right there, as that's the bracket we'll begin with. I know Class 6 is where we go chronologically speaking, usually when it comes to VHSL hoops and our recaps of things. But as we look back on the state semifinals, the Green Run Stallions winning it over LC Bird in a game that we both called on Wednesday night. Your thoughts on that game, as it was early looking like it was going to be a classic clash, but the Stallions now 9-0, getting set for Stonebridge, who was 15-1 in the state final tonight, 7 o'clock. Bulldogs and Stallions. Stonebridge 15-1. They rallied from a 4-point deficit with under a minute to play to stun Patrick Henry of Roanoke there, 67-66. Green Run, though, their guards and athleticism offset the great size of LC Bird with a number of guys 6'4", 6'6", and bigger.
You know, watching warm-ups, Matt, I kind of thought, whoa, boy, Bird big, athletic. I'm kind of leaning towards them. Well coached. Of course, Green Run is well coached. You talk about two guys over 200 career wins. Mans has a state championship already, beating Bethel High School, I think back in, was it 2017?
It was, yep.
Somewhere there around, okay. So I just felt that they had a little bit more firepower, but don't ever underestimate defending state champions, because that's what Green Run is. And they basically led from start to finish, did a great job on the thing I was most worried about was, boy, how are they going to keep this team off the glass? In fact, they out-rebounded them. I think by game's end, it was a margin of plus 11.
Yeah.
So somewhere around in that area. So that was good. Number two, what Green Run does well, run, score, they were able to do it without hesitation. And then the third thing I thought was a big key was Jacob Cooper got his hands on a lot of passes, even took some and converted them. Not only got steals, but converted steals into layup points, which had Bird backpedaling. And then the last thing I thought was big was, and I talked with Coach Harris before the game, thinking he's got to put in his zone, he's got to do zone, keep it away from the big guys. Let's see if they can knock down the jumpers, but cover shooters. And they did it well all night long, because they pretty much prevented the ball from going inside. And I'd like to see, and you probably have it, what Bird's shooting percentage was, because it wasn't very good.
Well, believe it or not, as we look at the numbers here for that game, Green Run actually shot 41.4%, which was lower than Bird's 44.2%. But ultimately, the Stallions kept Bird off the foul line the entire first half. And to your points, the fast break points, 22-0 there for Green Run, and also 20-2 in points off turnovers in favor of Green Run, as Jacob Cooper and Elijah Kennedy were just absolutely spectacular in this game. And if you look at, it's hard to pick a player of the year, and they're not doing a state one for the VHSL. But if you looked at just the pure stats this year, Coach Young, for Green Run, it's hard to differentiate between Cooper and Kennedy, who is the more valuable player. As you look at their numbers for the season, I mean, my goodness, Cooper's a kid that just got his 1,000th career point a week or so ago against Kempsville in the regional semifinals. He's been a 4-year starter. He was a state player of the year a season ago. And you look at him averaging right now 22.3 points per game. Kennedy's at 22.1 points per game. Kennedy's a 78% foul shooter. The scary thing for Kennedy is his three-point shooting percentage, which coming into the game was at 51%. And he's had a number of games where he's shot 5, 6, 7, even 9 made threes in a ball game this year. In fact, to that point, he's had 5 or more made threes in 4 of the last 5 games. And Cooper's right around 4.5 steals a game. I mean, it's just a 1-2 punch that's devastating for people to deal with. And then, oh, by the way, they got a 6'6" kid inside, and George Wilson, who's going to Florida State to play college football, and he's no slouch either.
Well, when we get down to individual talk, I mentioned Jacob Cooper. I failed to mention probably the most key guy of the game. Not that Jake Cooper wasn't, because, boy, he was tremendous at both ends. Elijah Kennedy, once he settled down and missed his first couple of shots, he pretty much got what he wanted. He does it in an effortless manner, but he is a worker. And he too got some key rebounds. He was in the right place on defense, but he just scored. Every time Green Run needed something, he delivered it. And he was in the way defensively for Bird to really get up. Bird never got into a comfortable flow. And you're right, they never got free points from the foul line for the most part, but they didn't really attack. And Green Run's playing. So when you settle on jump shots, for the most part, you're not going to get a lot of free throws. Bird fouled when they got discombobulated on transition defense because of Green Run steals, or when Bird played a triangle and two to start the game out most of the first half. When that breaks down, it leads to foul opportunities, because you have two guys playing straight man to man. They get beat, they come into other areas. And if you draw that defense and then dish it off, you're going to get fouled. And that's what happened. As a coach watching the game from the sideline and broadcasting it, I thought it was called fairly well. Yeah, if I'm Bird, I'd like to get to the foul line more, but you got to do things to make the referees blow that whistle. And that didn't happen.
We won't spend a ton of time on it because we'll do a little bit more later on in terms of previewing it. But fifth win by 6 points or less for Stonebridge, which eked out a win over Patrick Henry of Roanoke, 67-66. Balanced team for them with Cole DeVito, Dylan Hundermark. They got Davon Folk inside, Jacob Thomas, who's had 5 or 6 double-doubles, as well as a triple-double for Kent Klein's Bulldogs this year. But did that at all surprise you that they won at Patrick Henry of Roanoke? Did so after the Patrick Henry of Roanoke girls advanced to the state finals to play Princess Sam, which we'll discuss here in a moment. But they did so rallying in the final seconds against a team coached by Jack Esworthy, who's a veteran, that got to the state final 4 a year ago and lost a close one to Northview. Did that at all surprise you? Stonebridge, known for its football prowess, getting it done in basketball?
I was a little surprised when you said Stonebridge is beat Patrick Henry, who I think had a little bit more tradition and background in basketball than Stonebridge.
Mm-hmm.
But it tells me Stonebridge got athletes. Knowing that their football team has been a power over the years, I'm sure they have the athletes there, so it doesn't surprise me.
And Patrick Henry made about 11 or 12 threes to escape a hard-fought region championship winner, William Fleming. Didn't have quite as much success from behind the three-point line, at least their final play, a shot behind their own basket, down one, taking the three. I know you got a chance to watch that video. I showed it to you from the NFHS network. That surprised you, I'm sure, not getting into their main guy in Smith. They had him open if they pump fake it, but they took a fadeaway three in the corner. You see this all the time in college basketball, March Madness. We'll see it next month. It'll drive you and me crazy. I know you, especially as a coach, going for a three at the end, down one. Why do we see this all the time?
Yeah, it just against the flow of what happens. I'm not so sure, not being there and seeing it, but understanding how it happens. You're leaving in the minds or the hands of your 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. And sometimes you don't get the result that you want.
No.
I saw Henry was up early. Was only down a couple late, but wasn't able to make the right play. And watching a little bit of highlights, wasn't able to make the right play that I thought was there, but I'm not on the floor. It's
757 Saturday Sports Talk here on ESPN Radio 94.1 on State Championship Basketball Saturday with the coach Ed Young. I am Matt Hatfield. A lot of things. It's a fluid situation. Championships being moved and shifted all over the place with weather. And that's not just affecting the sport of basketball. As you know, Ed, it's been affecting wrestling, this sport, that sport. You name it, even some championship games for winter sports taking place on a Sunday, which I'm sure we'll dive into later on in the program as football is right around the corner, coming up on Monday with the first official VHSL game for this 2020-2021 campaign. Looking at the Class 5 girls before we jump back into the local front with Class 6 and Class 4 here and take a timeout. Princess Anne girls, they're no stranger to this big stage, are they? They defeat LC Bird 71-30. So some of those Bird administrators made the trip from PA to Green Run. They didn't get a chance to celebrate a victory for either one of their teams. And both teams have been there long before. Chevette Wall does a great job with the girls at Bird, as does Troy Mans with the boys, as you mentioned. But Darnell Dozier, we talked about it on our NFHS broadcast. He's like the GOAT. We talk about Tom Brady, Bill Russell, all their rings and all their jewelry. going for his 12th state championship, 8th in a row, Saturday, today, 5 o'clock, taking on the Patriots of PH Roanoke. Isaiah James, the NC State signee, 26 points for her, the sister of the late great Ashley James, who started Green Run. Zakiah Stevenson with 18 points. Soraya Griffin, another good performance from her. And she's one of about 7 or 8 freshmen on this roster, Ed, as they make their 13th consecutive state final appearance. I mean, oftentimes, as we've watched over the years, Coach Dozier, his team with defense, and I saw this last Saturday at Kempsville High School in the regional championship against a very good Salem girls team, which, by the way, kept it close within about 6 to 8 points before halftime. He goes off on his girls, telling them at the break, and you can hear everything now at these halftime speeches. Look, you don't want to be here, just go home. You got to play better defense. And they suffocated Salem in the third quarter last week, holding them to 1 field goal. And they're playing great, really good defense right now to hold Bird to 30. I think teams are defeated often before they even take the court against them, don't you? It's a mental thing as much as it is physical and the adjustments.
I think it does play a role. I think a lot of they're known statewide, have to be known statewide. And it's like you're excited about playing until you find out who you have to play. But you are playing. I'm the opposing coach. Okay, who did you think you're going to play? The worst team in the league? No, you're going to play the best team around. And they've got players and they're used to winning it. You're going to have to play hard, and we're going to have to do a little extra, dig down a little extra because they're that good. I mean, how else do you approach it? You can't settle for being second best.
No.
Well, at least we got here and we lost to a powerhouse like PA. No, you got to give them all you got. For PA, I said my hat's off to Darnell. I mean, I envy him to have a program that you pretty much know every year you're going to play for a state championship, not play for a district or a regional championship, i.e. league championship. You're playing for a state championship for the most part. That's what your schedule comes to. Most of us like to add on the end of the schedule. Okay, here's district tournament, here's regional tournament, here's state tournament. Princess Anne, it's automatic. They make the schedule out of it. What's the day of the state tournament? I put it on schedule because our season's going all the way to that. He just does a tremendous job. He's got some great players, which you got to have to do it. And it's a shame if people just say, ho hum, PA's in there again. That it has to be exciting every single time, not just to be there, which it is, but to win the state titles like he does.
Well, it's a common theme, I think, and thread among a lot of these teams that are playing, whether it's the Princess Anne girls, the Green Run boys, the Lansdowne boys, we'll get to, and I know it was your program, conditioning. You have to be a well-conditioned team that can go into your bench, your second unit, have the energy, the stamina, the endurance to withstand things, particularly in a COVID year. And all those programs I just mentioned with PA girls, Green Run, and Lansdowne boys are built around their defense. That's their cornerstone, their hallmark, their foundation. An interesting quote from Coach Dozier: "We just need to rebound," he told the Pilot after the game on Wednesday. "We haven't been a good rebounding team all year, but we'll rebound Saturday. I assure you of that." Kind of throwing down the message or the guarantee, we're going to rebound. So they don't have a Brittany Jackson inside from a few years ago. As we remember, she's down at Miami playing in the ACC, but watch their team without although Michelle Ojo's a pretty good player going to George Washington University in the front court for them. Watch them have a 2-to-1 rebound advantage on Patrick Henry and just, dominate the boards as they've done before against other teams like Burr or Highland Springs or whoever it's been in state finals from years past, as that'll probably be the way they get it done.
Yeah, I think if he harped about rebound, I bet that's all he did in practice was pretty much rebounding stuff. And if I know Darnell, they went at it. Some bodies hit the floor, as the song says. I got to feel that.
Let the body.
I got to believe that. And they'll be ready. And I dare say, no disrespect to Patrick Henry people, I think this is at least a 25-point win for PA.
Let's get to Class 6, Ed. Potomac boys. They stay unbeaten. Keith Honoree's crew from Dumfries, 79-73 to defeat Dwight Robinson's Eagles of Lansdowne, who were trying to get back to the state championship for the second time in 3 years. Remember, they beat Lake Braddock a couple of years ago with that group led by Michael Christmas, who's now at James Madison University. And Dwight Robinson's stepson, Donald Hand Jr., in defeat, 43 points, 27 of 27 from the foul line. Yes, you heard me right. 43 points, 27 of 27 from the foul line. Such a shame that came in a losing effort, because that kid's no loser. As you know, he's a darn good player and a winner. No question about it. And he's going to be a handful, no pun intended, for everyone next year.
No question. This kid has worked his way into being a solid Division I player. Of
Top
course, his
100 player. He's a top 100 player in the country now.
solid all the way, and he still has another year. So yes, he to have those kind of numbers in a loss is tough to take. I'm sure it is. The young man would love to have that in a win, or I'll take less and give me a win. I'll trade the numbers in, just give me a win. But they played a very good, well-known, always seems to be in the picture, Potomac, led by Keith Honore. So it doesn't surprise me. Dwight Robinson is usually in the mix too. And he was right there, 6 point, could have went either way down to the last minute or so. But Potomac edged it out, gets to play at home. And, I kind of side towards them over Centerville, but.
Actually, the game's going to be at Centerville, and it's not going to be Epsom. It's going to be at Centerville, which we'll get to. Yeah, we'll get to that. But real quick thought, a coach brought this up to me on Thursday. They said, almost critical of Potomac, like, how do you let that kid get to the foul line 27 times? What are you doing fouling him? Well, people, if a kid's that great, sometimes there's just nothing you can do. And Potomac hasn't lost all year. They're balanced. They have about 8 or 9 guys averaging between 6 to 12 to 15 points a game. Tyrell Harris, Keith Honore's son, Kyle. They have, on his estimation, 8 college basketball players. None of them's like a Division I Hallmark stud, national player of hands caliber. But this was a Lansdowne team that didn't have. I mean, most of Coach Robinson's teams are balanced. They have some seasoned parts around them, and this team was a little bit inexperienced and green to an extent around him. But boy, he carried them. And I mean, to me, I'm not critical at all either. This was a really good game. It kind of played out the way I thought. But man, oh man, you score 43 and you don't miss a free throw out of 27 attempts. That's tough.
Well, the answer to going to the foul line 27 times, being a coach myself, I can kind of answer that. If you're playing against a kid who's really good and he's going to pretty much get his, there's always these two thoughts. Let him get his, but you've got to shut everybody else down.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't subscribe to that. I'm like, okay, he may get his points, but he's going to have to work for it. We're going to beat him up in a legal way. We're going to be all over him, which means we're probably going to have some fouls. We might even have a couple guys foul out because we're going to have different people get in his face and try to wear him down because he's going to play minutes. So we probably don't have anybody who could play as many minutes and contain him. So we're going to play very physical on him, which means he's going to go to the foul line. Yeah. Which we're hoping is that he's a little hesitant on a drive. He's a little hesitant on a shot because he feels he's going to get hit or bumped. That's kind of what you take to. Now, some players, especially the higher levels, college pro, they thrive on that. They don't mind it. High school, sometimes they get a little leery because they're afraid they're going to get undercut or hit. Now, I'm not advocating dirty play by any stretch of any imagination, but you be physical with somebody. So I can see that youngster getting to the foul line 27 times. Years ago, we played a team in North Carolina. They had a kid went to the foul line 41 times in the game.
41?
41 times. He made 35.
That's what you call North Carolina barbecue right there, right?
Well, I'm not going to mention the refereeing because
I just did. You don't have to.
Let me just say how bad the refereeing was. The athletic director and assistant principal from the school we played at came up to me after the game to apologize. And we won the game by 5 or 6. But this youngster, every time he touched the ball in the second half, somewhat first, but in the second half for sure, there was a whistle every single time. And we were getting upset, but I had called timeout and told our players, look, this is what's going to happen. He is going to go to the foul line every time he touches the ball in the second half. You still have to play defense. Mm-hmm. We still have to make sure nobody else does anything, and we just run our offense. One thing was we can outrun them. We were in better shape than them. I said, so we're going to outrun them. They're going to be too tired to stay with us. But the officiating was so one-sided. I was a little nervous, but I knew we were in better shape. 41 times. I have never in my life seen a kid go to a foul line of any level anywhere that many times. I think Wilt Chamberlain, when he scored his 100 points, I don't think he went to the foul line 41 times in that game. Because that's how they covered Wilt Chamberlain, was foul the heck out of him because he couldn't shoot free throws worth a darn. And if you let him dunk on you, which is what he was going to do, you were going to get hurt. But yeah, that happened. So I can see why Donald Hand went to the line 27 times.
Chamberlain was 28 of 32 from the line, 36 of 63 from the field in his 100-point, 25-rebound masterpiece when the Philadelphia Warriors beat the New York Knicks 169-147 back on March the 2nd, 1962 in Hershey, Pennsylvania, when Ed was sitting there in front of the TV with his Hershey bar watching Chamberlain, the Big Dipper.
Man, the most dominant basketball player in the history of the world, Wilt Chamberlain. I used to say the best, but I can't say that no more because I got to believe Michael Jordan right now is the best at doing a lot of different things at both ends of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But Wilt Chamberlain, period, end of sentence, is the most dominant player ever, and there will never be another big Wilt.
I agree.
Don't forget his other big number that he had.
Oh, yeah, we can't get to that. This is a clean G-rated show, not an X-rated show.
20,000 people. Look it up, 20,000. Look up the number.
In 30 seconds or less, we've got to take a timeout here. Agree or disagree? Two things. One, I think the Lansdowne and Hayfield, the two semifinal teams that fell short, will be the favorites next year to get to the state championship in Class 6. And two, though Centerville's a reigning co-champ, they won a share of it last year with South County. I give the slight edge even to Potomac on the road against a Centerville team with a walk-on going to ODU for football and Avery Ford and a walk-on going to Virginia Tech in football and Chris Kazemka. You agree on both of those, or are you split on those?
Easy. Lansdowne's going to be there next year. Centerville, probably.
Hayfield. I said Hayfield. I said Hayfield.
Sorry, Hayfield.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really say much about Hayfield. I rely on you when you see a lot of these teams.
They got a lot back.
Yeah, so if they're going to have a lot back and they got this experience, because you can't replace the experience, it's needed. Mm-hmm. I can see that coming back. Potomac, Centerville, I'm going to make my prediction. I like, as a great coach once said, let me watch them warm up first, and I can tell you who's going to win.
All right, we'll come back with more here as we preview the state basketball championship games right here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. You don't want to touch that dial. It's your home for sports, pro, college, and local. ESPN Radio 94.1.